the way, make it green, shape the future, keep it clean. People, planet, profit too. Sustainable leadership starts with you.
Hi, and welcome to Beyond Greenwashing Leadership in Practice, the podcast where we examine how leadership decisions shape corporate accountability. I'm your host, Brendan Burns, and I'm joined by my usual co-host today, Claire Brown. And today we're discussing one of the most significant corporate failures in automotive history, the Volkswagen 2015 emissions scandal, also known as Dieselgate. Hi, Claire.
With us today are Debbie McBurney, an investigative journalist covering corporate accountability, and Adam Moran, representing the perspectives from Volkswagen and how this scandal unfolded and the company's response.
In September 2015, the US Environmental Protection Agency discovered that Volkswagen had installed software called defeat devices in approximately 11 million diesel vehicles worldwide. These devices detected when emission tests were underway and activated full pollution controls, only to disable them during normal driving. On the road, some vehicles emitted nitrogen oxides up to 40 times above legal limits.
Today, we're exploring what this scandal reveals about sustainable leadership, failures, and corporate governance. So let's begin with Debbie McBurney.
Thanks, Claire. Well, this scandal didn't emerge through Volkswagen's transparency. It was uncovered by independent researchers. In 2013 to 14, West Virginia University researchers, funded by the International Council on Clean Transportation, were testing real-world emissions of clean diesel vehicles. What they found was shocking. These vehicles passed laboratory tests but emitted far more pollution than on actual roads. This discrepancy led directly to the EPA's notice of violation on 18 September 2015.
Quite interesting. Adam, from Volkswagen's perspective, Adam, how did this software come to exist in your vehicles?
That's a critical question, Brendan. Volkswagen has conducted internal investigations and found that the defeat device was installed in diesel engines to meet simultaneous demands that seemed impossible. Stringent nitrogen oxide emission limits while maintaining the fuel efficiency and performance consumers wanted. The internal investigation identified over 40 individuals across different Volkswagen brands involved in the decision-making process, indicating this wasn't simply rogue engineers, it was systematic.
Come on, systemic failure, exactly the problem here. Volkswagen knowingly was deception over engineering solutions. The company had years to solve this legitimately. In fact, Volkswagen had alternative technologies available like selective catalyst reduction systems that could have met standards without cheating. Instead, the company chose to manipulate data for market advantage.
Let's examine what happened after the exposure.
Volkswagen's leadership was forced to respond quickly. Chief Executive Officer Martin Winterkorn resigned on September the 23rd in 2015, just 5 days after the admission of guilt. What followed were substantial financial consequences.
Volkswagen recognised the severity of the breach and took decisive action. The company initiated comprehensive internal investigations, removed key executives, and allocated significant final resources. In the United States alone, we agreed to settlements exceeding $14 billion, including direct compensation to vehicle owners, investment in electrical vehicle infrastructure and emissions mitigation programs. In Europe, we paid €1 billion to German authorities and agreed to €620 million in settlements with German consumers. These actions demonstrate our accountability.
But let's be clear, these fines were forced upon Volkswagen, not voluntarily offered. The company fought legal battles across multiple jurisdictions. More importantly, Volkswagen continued to sell non-compliant vehicles even after the scandal became public. In Canada, for example, in March 2017, the company was allowed to continue selling vehicles with cheat devices that had only received a software half fix. That's not sustainable leadership, that's regulatory circumvention.
What about human and environmental costs?
Well, a peer-reviewed study on environmental pollution estimated the fraudulent emissions would result in 45,000 disability-adjusted life years lost and at least 39 billion euros in health costs. In London alone, diesel emissions from vehicles like these were responsible for approximately 3,000 deaths per year from air pollution. This wasn't a victimless corporate error, it was a public health crisis.
I acknowledge the serious health implications. However, it's important to recognise that Volkswagen has since implemented substantial reforms. We've invested 30 billion euros in electric vehicle development, restructured their entire automotive strategy, and implemented new governance frameworks to prevent such failures. The company has moved from emissions cheater to climate leader, with commitments to zero-emission vehicles by 2050, thereby affirming our ambition to become a more transformational leader in respect to sustainability.
That's all fair and good, Adam, but can we trust that transformation after such fundamental dishonesty?
Let's examine what this scandal reveals about leadership, ethics, and corporate sustainability.
Look, Volkswagen's case represents a catastrophic failure of corporate governance. Leadership pressured engineers to meet unrealistic targets, creating incentives for fraud rather than innovation. The company prioritised short-term profitability and market share over long-term sustainability and public health. That's the opposite of sustainable leadership. A truly sustainable leader would have invested in genuine engineering solutions, communicated honestly with regulators and consumers, and accepted lower profit margins if necessary to meet the environmental standards.
I understand that critique, Debbie. However, it's worth noting that the broader automotive industry faced similar pressures. Volkswagen was uniquely caught, but industry-wide investigations later revealed that other manufacturers such as BMW, Daimler, had also engaged in emissions-related misconduct. This suggests systemic industry problems, not solely Volkswagen's ethical failure.
That's an important point, but it doesn't excuse Volkswagen's behaviour. A sustainable leader should set industry standards for integrity, not follow others into fraud.
What about lessons for sustainable leadership going forward, Debbie?
Well, the scandal demonstrates that sustainability cannot be genuine if it's built on dishonesty. Let's face it, Volkswagen claimed environmental responsibility while systematically deceiving regulators. Sustainable leadership requires transparency, accountability, and willingness to communicate failures to stakeholders. It also requires regulatory frameworks with real teeth. The scandal exposed massive gaps in how emissions testing was conducted globally, which had to be reformed after exposure.
I agree. Volkswagen are now showing a transformational leadership style by implementing rigorous compliance programs, third-party monitoring by the US Department of Justice, and shifty strategy focused towards electric vehicles and genuine sustainability. Whether the company can fully restore trust remains to be seen, but the structural changes indicate our serious commitment to preventing future failures.
The Volkswagen's emissions scandal offers crucial lessons. Sustainable leadership cannot be built on deception. Regulatory oversight is essential, and corporate accountability requires both legal consequences and genuine behaviour change.
Thank you to Debbie McBurney and Adam Moran for their very important discussion. The scandal reminds us that authentic sustainability requires integrity at every level of organisational leadership. Next week, we will discuss the future of electric vehicles, asking the question whether electrical vehicles are truly sustainable. Thank you for joining us today.
Lead the way, make it green, shape the future.